It has been 50 years since the liberation of the Ir Atikah in Yerushalayim and the reunification of Yerushalayim as the unified capital of Medinat Yisrael, of Eretz Yisrael. It doesn't seem conceivable that really 50 years, a Yovel, an Olam, has passed since Chavchet Iyar Tafshin Chavzayin, a time of exhilaration in which Klal Yisrael experienced Me tzara l'rvacha, me afela le'ora, me shibud le'geula, a sense of sason and simcha rarely achieved in our daytime. There was a palpable sense at that time of Yeshua, of geula even. Certainly people didn't need much encouragement to break out in Hallel when the words Yerushalayim bi'adenu, Hakotel bi'adenu were heard and resonated throughout the Jewish world. Not only a sense of relief and joy, even disbelief given the political and military realities then, after fears and sense of crisis, but even more importantly, a sense of inspiration and opportunity. Not just a celebration of a military victory, one which was necessary and one which was colossal, the Six-Day War, but a deep felt conviction of the spiritual potential for the reawakening of the Jewish people, even of secular Israel, of world Jewry, something which truly did take place in the aftermath of this unbelievable day. And in the 5 decades that have ensued, that have followed, Yerushalayim has certainly become an essential part of the fabric of all of our lives. Today, 50 years later, it's inconceivable to think of Eretz Yisrael without the centerpiece of Yerushalayim, a truism that Chazal note when they say that Eretz Yisrael be'emtza ha'olam, Eretz Yisrael stands in the center of the universe, Yerushalayim is be'emtza Eretz Yisrael. Often, hopefully a magnet for unity and increased devotion to Torah, to Talmud Torah, notwithstanding the cruel irony that politically the future of Yerushalayim is such a source in the world of divisiveness and of fragmentation. To us, Yerushalayim is quite simply, as Chazal, darshaning the psukim, Ir shechubra layachtav, Ir she'oseh kol yoshveha chaverim zeh lazeh. It's a unifying force, one which, as we'll explain, establishes a concept which is unique to the Jewish people, the concept of a corporate category of Israel, the basis and foundation for Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh Lazeh, that each Jew is a guarantor for every other Jew. And even as we take almost happily for granted access to Yerushalayim, we should be particularly vigilant about its future, and certainly we should never be complacent in appreciating its tremendous spiritual value. Chazal tell us that every aspect of Jewish life is connected to Yerushalayim. B'tfila omrim bonei Yerushalayim. B'birchas hamazon omrim bonei Yerushalayim. B'kriyas shema omrim bonei Yerushalayim. What Chazal intended with this was that notwithstanding the tremendous differences between different institutions in Jewish life and in halacha, Kriyas Shema, which represents Kabbalas al Malchus Shamayim, the sense of commitment, Tefillah, the opportunity to have a relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, to stand Lifnei Hashem, Birchas Hamazon, which encapsulates the concept of Hodah and a deeper appreciation and basis of Emunah. Despite and because of the vast difference between these different institutions of halacha, it's critical that each and every one of them is linked to the ultimate connection of Yerushalayim. Bonei Yerushalayim applies to each. We recognize that Shivim Shemos Yerushalayim, that every culture, because our Shivim Umos, have a connection with Yerushalayim, hence it is sometimes referred to in 70 different designations. But our connection to Yerushalayim is one which is not merely meaningful, but defining, crucial. Yerushalayim constitutes a cornerstone in the very principle of Kedusha, of sanctity of Klal Yisrael. In that sense, it is truly the Ir Shechurba Leyachtav. Any celebration of Yom Yerushalayim, of Yerushalayim in our lives, needs to center, of course, on its status in the world of halakha and what it is that profoundly reflects. So what I'd like to do very briefly is zero in on one issue and then perhaps expand in the time that we have a little bit more to try to develop what really is singular and unique about Yerushalayim. The Gemara in Masachet Bava Kama, Daf Pei Beis Amud Beis, and equally in Masachet Yoma, Daf Yud Beis Amud Aleph, lists some of the unique features of Yerushalayim. Asara Dvarim Nemru B'Yerushalayim. 10 things were said, 10 halachic issues, singular, or establish the singular nature of our connection to Yerushalayim. Some of them are very intriguing. Ein habayis chalut ba, the din of bayis arichoma. Eina doesn't apply to Yerushalayim. Eina mevia egla rufa, the egla rufa which is brought when an anonymous corpse is found and Bezin Hagadol has to take some measure of responsibility. That whole procedure never takes place in connection with Yerushalayim, we're told. Eino nases iranidachas, Yerushalayim can never be an iranidachas, a city defined by Avodah Zarah. Eina metama b'negoyim, houses in Yerushalayim are not subject to tumas negoyim. And then there are a whole slew of others to fill out the 10. The Gemara explains the 4 that I mentioned, that all of them are linked to the special halachic status of Yerushalayim. Ein abayis chalud ba d'chsiv v'kam abayis asher lo choma latzmisus lakona osa l'dorosav. The principle of chalut is something which is connected to individual ownership, and therefore the Kasavar, this man Amar, believes lo nischalka Yerushalayim l'shvatim. Yerushalayim was not divided like the rest of Eretz Yisrael. It was not apportioned to the various shvatim. It belonged to the totality, to the corporate entity of Klal Yisrael. The Eina Mevi Egla Arufa, that's why there's no Egla Arufa. D'chsiv ki matzei chalel ba'adamar she'Hashem Elokecha nosein lecha l'rishta. It was given to you as a heritage. V'Yerushalayim lo nischalka l'shvatim. The Eina nases iranidachas, equally it's not an iranidachas, again, because the Torah emphasizes individual ownership in that context. Arecha excludes Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim lo nischalka l'shvatim. Ve'ena metama b'negoyim, again, v'nasati negat zaras, bebeis eretz achuzaschem, v'Yerushalayim lo nischalka l'shvatim. Yerushalayim, unique among the cities in Eretz Yisrael, was not apportioned in the apportionment of Eretz Yisrael, the division to the different shvatim. And this affects numerous halachos, as we've seen. But there's a very curious discussion in the Balei Tosas. Balei Tosas on the spot raised the following question. In Masechet Yoma and other places, there's a debate between Rabbi Yehuda and the Rabbanan, indeed, whether Eretz Yisrael is or is not nischalka l'shvatim, whether Eretz Yisrael was originally apportioned to specific shvatim, Yehuda, Binyamin, or, as we've just declared, that it belonged to the totality of Klal Yisrael. However, Rabbi Yehuda, who is of the opinion that Yerushalayim was nischalka l'shvatim, like all other cities, it was given to a particular shevet, or two in this case, he is of the opinion that nonetheless the Beit HaMikdash became the collective property of the total Klal Yisrael because it was acquired from Arvona by David HaMelech with money that was collected from all of Klal Yisrael, and as a result, it too achieves the status of a collective ownership, and therefore many of the parallel dinim that we just discussed, while he argues do not apply to Yerushalayim, because Yerushalayim was in fact apportioned to the different shvatim, nonetheless, the status of the Mikdash is one which belongs to the totality of Klal Yisrael. So the Balei Tosas asks the question, how do we know, given the paradigm of the Beit HaMikdash, how do we know that the same thing did not take place with regard to Yerushalayim? How do we know that really, maybe perhaps it was initially apportioned among the Shvatim, like every other city, and maybe later on it was deemed to be of such central significance that it was acquired collectively on behalf of Klal Yisrael, just like the Beit HaMikdash? How does the Gemara know, based on these halachot, that Yerushalayim lo nischalka l'shvatim. V'im tomar, minole de lo nischalka mamish, how do you know that originally it wasn't apportioned? Duma savar nischalka, it was, ele shenitna shenasnu doshna shel Yericho tachteha kemol Rabbi Yehuda de Amar nischalko metame ubeis hamikdash atzmo ein metame, afa gavdi nischalek. Just as, according to Rabbi Yehuda, the Beit HaMikdash could achieve the status of the collective ownership of Klal Yisrael, even though originally it was not, how do we know the same thing is not true with regard to Yerushalayim? And the Bali Tosas give a very quizzical answer, very enigmatic answer. V'yesh lomar, the Beit HaMikdash svarahu, afagav de nischalek, de chazur v'kona oso, kadeshi yehei l'chol Yisrael chelek bo. When it came to the Beit HaMikdash, it's logical that even if initially the Ribono Shel Olam did not establish its indivisible ownership, in the end it was important that all of Klal Yisrael have a hand, have a connection in the Beit HaMikdash, and therefore its being acquired with public money was a wise thing to do, a necessary thing to do. Aval Yerushalayim im betchila nischalka lo mayu chozrin v'konin osa. But if Yerushalayim initially was divided among the tribes, why would there be any point in reacquiring it on behalf of the entire tzibur? That's what the Bali Tosas explain. In the Chidushei HaGriz, or Velvel Soloveitchik, in the end of Hilchos Beis HaBechira, he zeroes in on the difficulty of this Tosas. And he asks two questions. Number one, if indeed there is an argument between Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim regarding the status of the Beit HaMikdash, what difference does it make, in the end of the day, whether initially the Beit HaMikdash as part of Yerushalayim was given indivisibly to all of Klal Yisrael, or whether or not it was initially given to a shevet and later reacquired on behalf of everyone? In the end of the day, when it became meaningful, when the Beit HaMikdash was operative, it was already the full ownership of Klal Yisrael, one way or another. So what difference does it make at what stage this happened? Moreover, the bigger question, to explain the enigmatic statement of the Bali Tosas. Why is it that when it came to the Beit HaMikdash, it was worthwhile to reacquire it on behalf of the entire tzibur, even if initially it belonged to a particular shevet, but there would have been no point to trying to accomplish the same thing for Yerushalayim? It appears that the difference between the sanctity of the Beit HaMikdash and the sanctity of Yerushalayim is qualitatively distinctive, such that the reacquisition of the land for the Beit HaMikdash is meaningful, and the parallel reacquisition of the land for the capital of the Jewish people of Yerushalayim would have been an empty gesture. And the question is why? Rav Velvel himself explains that there really are two different issues. One issue relates very particularly to the Mikdash, where there is value for Klal Yisrael to be the monetary owners, for every member of Klal Yisrael to have a hand in the Beit HaMikdash. And that is something that could be accomplished, even if initially it belonged to a particular shevet, as long as the acquisition was done in a properly collective way, in a legal way. The bailus of Klal Yisrael is what matters. The bailus of the tzibur is what matters to the Beit HaMikdash. However, when it comes to Yerushalayim, which is a makom asher yivchar, it is the makom rather than the ownership of it that is crucial. And that is something that had to be established from the outset, initially, at the time of the apportionment. And he goes on to develop these two ideas, one having to do with the stature of the place, the other with the function and performance of the institution of the Mikdash. However, I'd like to take the same question and provide a slightly different suggestion. Maybe this is also what he had in mind. Essentially, there are two methods of establishing the collectivity of Klal Yisrael. One is by establishing that every individual has a portion, has a place, has a special connection and relationship with a particular institution. Collective ownership in the sense that everybody is a partner. But there's another concept, and that is the indivisible corporate idea that there is no individual ownership, not that everybody has individual ownership, but that the totality of Klal Yisrael as a unit only constitute the real owners of a particular institution. What the Bali Tosa seem to be saying is as follows. When it comes to the Beit HaMikdash, which is about the avoda very specifically, and particular functions, when it comes to that, the important thing is that every member of Klal Yisrael have a connection, be involved, be able to bring korbanot as somebody who is a shutaf, who is a partner. And if that was not established at the time of the apportionment, because Yerushalayim was also nischalka l'shvatim, it was still a critical requirement and also was accomplishable when David HaMelech raised funds, purchased the property in the name of all Klal Yisrael. However, the din and the status of Yerushalayim is not about each individual having a part or an ownership. It's about Klal Yisrael as a corporate entity being the owners or being responsible for the capital city of Yerushalayim. Perhaps because it is a makom asher yivchar. And as far as that is concerned, that is dictated by the Ribbono Shel Olam alone. The notion of corporate ownership is itself a very innovative idea. It's something which is unique to Klal Yisrael and can be established only by divine fiat by the Ribbono Shel Olam. It's something which had to be established at the initiation of the Kedusha of the sanctity. If Yerushalayim was nischalka l'shvatim, there would never be a way to accomplish the corporate ownership or the corporate bailus of Klal Yisrael. It's only because we paskin against Rabbi Yehuda like the Rabbanan that we can say the Yerushalayim lo nischalka l'shvatim, and consequently all of the halachos that the Gemara develops. In other words, Kedushas HaMikdash and Kedushas Yerushalayim, while they overlap, are also fundamentally different. The truth is that typically we equate the two. Indeed, the Rambam, in a famous comment in Perush Mishnayos in Masechet Sukkah, talking about the law of bringing the lulav and other minim all 7 days in the Mikdash, min Torah. And again, we talks about Tekiyas Shofar on Shabbos, on Rosh Hashanah. In both places, in Rosh Hashanah and in Sukkah, the Rambam in his Perush Mishnayos explains that while the Mishnah speaks of Mikdash, the halacha includes Yerushalayim as well. And indeed, when the Rambam establishes that while Eretz Yisrael's sanctity depended on the permanence or enduring quality of the initial Kedusha of Yehoshua, and that we paskin the Kedusha of Yehoshua, Yehoshua's conquest, Kidsha l'shaita v'lo Kidsha li'asad lavo. It was not enduring, it didn't continue, at least then, after the conquest. Nonetheless, says the Rambam, in Hilchos Beis HaBechira, the sanctity of the Beit HaMikdash is the sanctity of the Shechina, and that is enduring. From the time it began, it never terminated. And the language that the Rambam uses, even though he's mostly speaking about the Beit HaMikdash, equally includes Yerushalayim. The Rambam explains, Lefikach makrivina karbanos kulan afapi she'ein sham bayis banui, ve'ochlin kadshe kadashim b'chol azara afapi she'ichareva, ve'ena mukefes b'mechitza, ve'ochlin kadshim kalim b'maiser sheni, b'chol Yerushalayim, afapi she'ein chobo. And then he continues, why? Ve'lama ani omer b'mikdash v'Yerushalayim kedusha rishona kidsha li'asid lavo? Why, as opposed to Eretz Yisrael? Shekdushas hamikdash v'Yerushalayim mipnei hashchina, u'shchina eina betela. And then the Rambam goes on to develop and to continue to develop this idea. The Rambam in the very beginning of Hilchos Beis HaBechira, Perek Aleph Halacha Gimel, Kivan shenivna hamikdash, not just when the Mikdash was built, it became the ultimate expression of a Beis Hashem, which then prohibited any other facsimile, any other bama. The Rambam says, Kivan shenivda hamikdash b'Yerushalayim nesru kol hamakomos kulam livnos behen bayis laHashem. Only b'Yerushalayim bilvad u'bahar hamoria sheba. There are numerous indications that the Rambam, on the one hand, acknowledges that Kedushas HaMikdash, the sanctity of the Mikdash, is singular and Yerushalayim's sanctity is different. And at the same time, the interaction between the two is a powerful force that is more than the sum of its parts. Indeed, the Gemara in Masechet Brachos seems to establish this very clearly. Torah Rabbanon, the Gemara says that wherever a person is in the world, he should always direct his tefillos towards the Kodesh HaKadoshim. If a person is, says the Gemara, in a different country, then Hayomed b'chutz laaretz yechavin libo keneged Eretz Yisrael. Shenemar v'ispalu elecha derech artzam. Gemara in Brachos Taf Lamed. Hayomed b'Eretz Yisrael, if he's inside of Eretz Yisrael, yechavin es libo keneged Yerushalayim. Shenemar hispalu al derech ha'ir asher b'charta. Hayomed b'Yerushalayim yechavin es libo keneged Beis Hamikdash. Shenemar, and he goes on. The question is very simple. Wherever a person is in the world, all he really has to do is face in the direction of the Beis Hamikdash. If he's in Chutz La'aretz, he faces to the Beis Hamikdash. If he's in Eretz Yisrael, he faces to the Beis Hamikdash. Why is it necessary for the Gemara to tell us that if you're in Chutz La'aretz, you face Eretz Yisrael, if you're in Eretz Yisrael, you face Yerushalayim, if you're in Yerushalayim, you face the Beit HaMikdash? And the answer is that these concentric circles, these different levels of sanctity, are both connected and different. There's a sanctity of Eretz Yisrael, which doesn't always dovetail with the sanctity of Yerushalayim and the Beit HaMikdash, as we noted in the Rambam, but equally, there is a special sanctity of Yerushalayim which differs from that of the Beit HaMikdash. And first things first, tefillah always has to be centered to the first elemental level of Kedusha, Eretz Yisrael, Yerushalayim, the Beit HaMikdash. The Gemara in Masechet Ketubot, also Daf Kuf Yud Amud Beis, speaks about Hakol Malin L'Eretz Yisrael Ein Hakol Motziin, Hakol Malin Yerushalayim Ein Hakol Motziin. The law is that if there's a dispute of husband and wife, where to live, that Eretz Yisrael, given its sanctity, takes precedence. And within Eretz Yisrael, Yerushalayim. We have similar halachot, Aniyei Eretz Yisrael Kodmim, Aniyei Yerushalayim Kodmim. On the one hand, when it comes to numerous halachot, the major category is the ultimate category of the Beit HaMikdash. However, for numerous other halachot, there is Eretz Yisrael, there is Yerushalayim, and only then the Beit HaMikdash. And the reason is because the sanctity of each of these institutions is different, even though together they form much more than the sum of the parts. The Beit HaBechira, as we noted, is a place for individuals to come to achieve perfection, to be inspired, to bring individual and collective korbanot. But Yerushalayim, the Ir Malei Chachamim V'Sofrim, Yerushalayim, the Ir Shalon Ischalka L'Shvatim, the Ir Shechubar Yachtav, is the place in which all Klal Yisrael have a connection not merely as individuals, but where the corporate unit, nation aspect of Klal Yisrael itself is fundamentally expressed. The Ir Shechubra La Yachtav. And because of this, we bring Meiser Sheni to Yerushalayim, we eat Kadshe Kalim in Yerushalayim, Bikurim, which is brought to the Mizbeach in the Beis HaMikdash, has a din of Hava'as Makom. Nisha says it's Ta'un Hava'as Makom. It's inspired by Yerushalayim. L'shichno Sidrashu Vasa Shama refers to the link between Yerushalayim and the Beit HaMikdash. For individuals to aspire and to achieve excellence in spirituality, in halachic spirituality, they need the foundation and have to be inspired by the collectivity of Klal Yisrael itself. Meiser Sheni, Kodshim Kalim, are individual expressions that can only be achieved in the context of the tzibur, of the totality of that tzibur. And therefore, Yerushalayim emerges in halachic thinking and in Jewish thinking generally, not merely as a place, but as a concept. Yerushalayim represents the unity of Klal Yisrael, the responsibility of each Jew to each other Jew, and the capacity of the totality of Klal Yisrael to achieve things on behalf of each and every individual. it's not surprising that Chazal tell us Yerushalayim Kesari representing Greek thought. If they tell you that one is on the upswing, then you should know that the other is probably under siege, culturally under siege, and vice versa. Yerushalayim and Kesari. Yerushalayim constitutes not merely a location, but a concept, a idea, the yesod of Klal Yisrael's unity. Greek thought is very much focused on individual excellence and individual powers. Yerushalayim, Klal Yisrael, brought to the world the notion of a corporate entity. And indeed, this is the reason why in the end of our tfilos of Ne'ilah, in the most sensitive point of the entire year, B'Ne'ilah b'Yom Kippurei, we say Yivarechecha Hashem Mitzion Ur'ei Betuv Yerushalayim. It's not a coincidence that the Zecher L'Chorban, which mostly focuses on the Mikdash, also has a special dimension when it comes to Yerushalayim. Im eshkachech Yerushalayim tishkach yemini. And that element is particularly accentuated in a time of great joy, especially in the time of a chasana, of a wedding. Chazal tell us in Masechet Brachos, as we are all familiar, Kol haboneh achas michurvos Yerushalayim is the equivalent of Kol hamesameach chasan v'kala. A chasan and kala defying all odds, defying conceptual possibility even, are able to forge an indivisible unit. Their connection is not merely one of efficiency, it's an actual existential bond in which, once again, they are more than the sum of their parts. And therefore, somebody who appreciates a chasan and kala and what it is indeed that we're celebrating at a wedding, kol hamesameach chasan v'kala, is kibona achas mechurvos, in this case, not the Beis HaMikdash, but of Yerushalayim. Im eshkachech Yerushalayim tishkach yemini. And indeed, there are numerous other halachic expressions of this. But just in conclusion, as we stand a Yovel, an Olam, away from 1967, and looking back at the tremendous transformative impact that the capture of Yerushalayim, the resettlement of Yerushalayim, the reunification of the city of Yerushalayim had on our recent history. Indeed, it's no coincidence. It merely is a reflection of the idea that Yerushalayim lo nischalka l'shvatim. So as we appreciate 50 years later, with the benefit of perspective, we should all recommit ourselves, not merely to the political future of Yerushalayim, that of course, but especially to the ideology of Yerushalayim, to the ideology which establishes the unity of Klal Yisrael l'dorei doros. That is something which is as relevant today as it was then, and something which we truly have to give Shabach v'Hodah to celebrate. Thank you.